Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be going over one of my favorite free and open source software products, GitExtensions. I'll cover some basics and then I'll go through a simple use case and hopefully create a pull request to show some of the functionality in action. GitExtensions is a Git client for Windows. I believe it works on Mac and it also works on Linux. It's built in C#, so it uses Mono on those platforms. I personally like to use Git extensions over the command line because Git is a very visual thing. As you can see on the screen, all these commits are shaped in a tree-like structure. Commits have parents, children, etc. So it's helpful to be able to see the commits all the time. You can obviously do this with a command line using git log, but I feel like that's extra effort that there's really no need to put in given a tool like this that'll just automatically do it for you. GitExtensions also offers the ability to quickly use commands without having to think about all the different parameters you have to put in, the arguments, the command names, etc., but it still gives you the flexibility to open a command and run commands as you see fit. So think of it more as an addition to your command line rather than it. Now you're probably already aware there are many different types of Git GUIs or Git clients. SourceTree is another one. I am personally not a huge fan of SourceTree for a variety of reasons. One, I got to learn Git using Git extensions, so I'm more familiar with it. I guess you could say I'm a little more biased as well. I have tried using SourceTree several times, and I often try to help people with SourceTree. I get pretty lost in there because they tend to not use the exact same phrases that you would use in regular Git usage. It seems like they kind of make up their own phrases and use cases and workflows and such, and they just don't fit well with the way I think about Git. And then there's things like merging, aborting a merge, and just general usage of the tool itself that doesn't flow well to me. It seems to get in my way more than anything. So things like that throw me off, and I just like the way GitExtension does it better. We probably won't go over all the details like that today, but there are some use cases that I've run into that just did not make any sense to me with SourceTree, and that's a big reason why I stick with Git extensions. Some other reasons to use Git extension are it's open source. Obviously, it's a good thing to support open source. The libraries in there are all there if you need them for any other projects. The tool itself is not the prettiest looking thing ever, but it's very functional. If there's a bug, it's easy enough to go in and honestly just fix it yourself. That's one of the best things about it, is you can change it to meet your needs. If there's a feature you want, you request it or you go do it yourself, and typically people are pretty responsive to that sort of thing. So without further ado, let's get into actually showing how to use it. First things first, I want to go over the website a little bit. It's a GitHub project. We're going to focus on Git extensions. This is the main project. So we're going to go in here and we're just going to poke around a little bit, check out the wiki. Okay, so it's got coding guide. Let's check out this page. Okay, so we've got some video tutorials. I think some of these are probably a little bit older. Oh, right here. This is what I'm looking for. The download is on SourceSword as well as on GitHub. I prefer GitHub. Looks like there was a new release yesterday actually. So I went ahead and downloaded this already. I got it all set up. Along with this download comes the Visual Studio plugin, and I'm going to demonstrate that real quick as well. So I can actually go into this code here. I'm actually in the Git extensions project here, and I can right click right here, go to file history, and it'll bring up the history of this file using Git extensions, which I really like. I think I can switch to diff mode here. So this is just the view mode. This just shows the file. I can switch over to diff mode, and right now I have this top commit selected, and this is showing me what was changed in that commit. I can just go down the list and it updates. If I want to see fewer lines between each change, click over here. If I want to see more lines, I can add a couple lines in there. I can even show the entire file. It means it's not going to have this here. So now I can actually go through the entire file and see all of the changes without anything being hidden. I'm going to take that away because that's not useful right now. I can ignore white space changes, which is actually really helpful, and I know other tools such as Bitbucket, the diff viewer in there, has this ability. And then you can select your encoding as well, which it'll default. So really that's the gist of it right there. That's the diff tool within the file viewer. You can go to the blame tab. This is actually showing the commit right here. So we've got our hash, got who did it, when, and then it's showing the actual commit message. And then finally we have our actual blame. So if I want to jump to say line 88, okay, there's 88. I'm just going to hover over it and it highlights all of the changes in that commit that's in this file. Super handy. I can hover over this and it'll tell me the summary of commit, so I can quickly navigate and see why changes were made. I have a better understanding of changes being made in the project. Super handy. It's not something you can really do with a GUI, at least not easily. It requires a lot more effort and work, but with a GUI like this, it's rather straightforward. Close out of here and let's actually go through the issues here and see if we can find one that might be worthwhile to try here. Let's just start with the top one here. So on the commit dialog, which is this, so if I click the commit button here, it brings up this dialog box. So let's read this. On the commit dialog configuration page, raise the previous messages limit. I believe the previous messages is talking about this. So right here we see 4 messages, and I believe what they're asking to do is be able to increase that beyond 4 or whatever the current limit is. So let's go see if we can find where that's at. We'll go up to Tools, Settings, click around a little bit here, Commit Dialog. There's something. Number of previous messages in commit dialog. Here we go, 4. So let's do 999. Alright. That seems to work. What if I go down? Nope, it limited it to just 9. Go up. It's limiting it to 10. So it looks like the limit is 10. Let's check his issue to see if that aligns. So he's asking for a new feature. He says it's limited to 10, which it is. He wants to increase this because 10 really isn't a useful number. Some people need a lot more than that. So he wants the limit to be 100. The problem is the user interface is going to be really, really bad if we do that. I'm going to ignore that aspect of it for now, and we'll just switch it to 100 just to show how to do this. Alright, so let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to remember this text. Number of previous messages in commit. Okay. Okay, and he has the same text here, so I'll use that. I'll copy that. That's what we'll use to find this code. So we can get extensions. I actually have this repository set up already, and I'll show you here in the remotes what that looks like. So I have 2 remotes. One's my fork on GitHub, so this is my account right here, and I forked the GitExtensions repository already. And so I simply had to come to this screen, I add a new remote, put in, I call it personal. Some people call it, I prefer personal, it's less confusing. And then I put in the URL, and I'm using Win Credential Manager, so I don't even have to worry about a private key file or anything right now. And then I was able to save it, and that gave me this. Same thing with Upstream. Upstream is the repository that I forked. So when I push my changes upstream, it's going to that main repository. And this is the official GitHub, GitExtensions repository. I can set their default behaviors. Usually the defaults are fine. I typically don't change these. Master is what we're going to be building off of. I'm going to go ahead and close this now that we know what our 2 remotes are. I'm on master, which is where I want to be. I'm going to go to this down arrow. This is the pull dialog. The up arrow is push. We're not pushing yet though. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the latest changes. I don't want to pull from my fork. I want to pull from the upstream fork so I have the latest code that other people have pushed. So I'm going to switch the remote. I do not have to specify a branch here, but I can. I'm going to not do it just to see what happens. Here are a few options that you have, and as you can see on the left side it switches this layout every time you choose a different option. It's showing a picture of what's happening when you select that option. So I'm going to stick with merge because I want to pull and merge the changes. I don't have any commits locally that would interfere with that, so this should just work smoothly. It'll be basically a fast forward merge. I'm not going to touch these settings. I don't really pay too much attention to these. And then I'm going to make sure I have auto stash checked. What auto stash does is every time I do a pull, it's going to take any of the changes I have currently on this branch, that are not, it will stash those for me. It will then do a pull, and then it will pop them from the stash. It requires much less work than having to do it by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that checked. That will remember that it's checked forever till I change it. Let's try that. I did not specify a remote branch. That was right here. Okay, so I am going to tell it to pull from master. And as you can see, one nice thing about GitExtensions is it's actually showing you the command it's running. There's the git, it's doing a pull, -- progress is telling it to keep track of the progress so we can have a progress bar. Upstream is the remote, and then it's saying basically update refs heads master with whatever ref's remote's upstream master is. And then it's basically saying pull down this into this, which it has already done, it's up to date. So I don't need to worry about this. This is done. I got a green arrow up here, so we're good to go. I now have the latest code. This project has submodules in it, so this one's already set up to update the submodules when I do a pull. I don't work with submodules a lot, so I'm not going to even try to give any advice on how to use them or anything, but this is the command it's running. If you use them, you can pretty much tell what's going on based on that. Okay, there we go. We have the latest code. I'm now going to switch over to coding some stuff. So first I want to create a branch. Typically the way you would want to create a branch for something like this is I'm going to go to GitHub. I'm going to see the issue number, which is 3892, and I'm going to create my branch accordingly. So I'm going to create a 3892 branch. Commands. Oh, before I do that though, I want to show something. So right now I'm on the master branch, as you can see right here. I can switch branches simply by clicking on a different one or checking out one that I don't already have checked out locally. I'm going to go to Commands, Create Branch. I'm going to give it a name. Need to remember what number that was. That was 3892. Telling me what revision it's being branched off of. It's just this top commit. I want to check it out after I create it, so this master up here will switch to 3892. I could put a description in here, such as raise previous messages limit.
Raise previous messages limit.
So then we have a kind of a quick description of what we're looking at, and I'm going to create it, and we'll check it out as well at the same time. Here, as you can see again, we just called the checkout command, checkout branch, based off this commit, and then it switched us to that branch. Again, it's updating submodules. As you can see up here, the current branch changed from master to our new branch. That's how we're going to know where we're at. We also have this box around the branch names. This green one shows that it's actually a remote branch. Alright, now that we are on our branch, we actually want to start coding. Let's open up Visual Studio, and we're going to find this text, previous messages in commit dialog. So with Visual Studio, I can just Control-Shift-F, paste that text, and we'll see what we find. This looks good right here. So I see a label that's called commit dialog number previous messages .text, and then here we have our text. The rest of these appear to be translation files, so we can pretty much ignore those. So I'm going to double click this one, and that'll take us to that code. Here we are. Okay, the thing to keep in mind, this is actually the label. This isn't the input box or the number box that we're putting numbers in. So we need to look a little harder to see if we can find that box instead. It should be somewhere in here because this is a designer file, so it basically represents the interface we were looking at, and it was right next to the label. So let's poke around and see what we can find here. Right here, I see a maximum, a minimum, and all of these have to do with that input label, it looks like. So this is commit dialog number of previous messages. So what I'm gathering here is that this goes together. So this is setting the maximum to 10, I believe. And this is setting the minimum to 1, which does match what we saw in the interface. And this looks like it's setting the initial value, or the default value, to 1. So let's go ahead and just give this a try. We're just going to add a 0 here, save it, and build it, and see what happens. I'm going to do a build. one succeeded, looks good. So now we should be able to launch this GUI. It opened up on the other screen. So here we are. This is the one we're debugging, as you can tell by the debug note here in the title bar. So what we're going to try here is you're going to go to Tools, Settings, Commit Dialog, and we're set to 4 here. So this is possible this is getting set by config file or a user setting somewhere, because the default we were seeing in the code was actually 1. Let's just see if we can get it up to 11, 9, 10, 11. There we go. So it is working now. I wonder how fast we can get it up. There we go. Stops at 100. Alright, we're going to take it back down and set it to 11 to prove our point. We'll apply that. Hit OK. Open this up. So here we have our file that we changed, and we want to stage it and then commit it. If I had a bunch of files in here, I could pick and choose the ones I want to stage. I could Shift or Control select them and then just stage those. Or I could stage them all. For now I'll just stage this one. I'll type in my commit message, and then we could commit it. Now, what I'm expecting to see here before we do this is a little test. If I click this commit message button here, this is the 10 limit we were looking at before, and the default was 4, and we actually did see 4 originally. So now that we changed it to 11, I do expect to be able to count 11 messages in here. So let's give it a try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we are. So what it's doing is it's just keeping track of the last 11 commit messages and displaying them in here for easy reuse. If I delete this and then I click this, it's going to just populate it for me. If you're commonly doing the same commit message, it's going to save you a bunch. Let's go ahead and close this. We see that it is working. I do want to see how it handles 100, just for fun, before we actually go in and commit this. Commit dialog. Let's do 100. Okay. I have a feeling this will crash or just look terrible. Let's try it. There, it actually worked. Actually, it does work. Even lets you scroll. So that's horrible, but it technically works. So I'm not going to do anything additional for the pull request. I'm going to call that a win. So let's close this, so we're not debugging it anymore. Let's close this. Alright, so we're no longer debugging, and I accidentally closed my original GitExtensions, so I'll reopen it. So here we have our one change. I already staged it, and now I need to just commit it. In fact, I don't think 100 is even the maximum limit here. Why don't we go a little higher? I'm going to right click my file here. I'm just going to go edit file. I see we're on line 117. So I'm just going to go down to that line. I'm going to change it to 999. So let's give this a try. So I saved it. I'm going to refresh this window, and it should display my new change up here. The old change will still be down here because I've staged that. The new one I haven't staged yet. So here we are. So I'm going to click that, and there it went from 100 to 99 now. So I'm going to go ahead and stage that. So let's change our commit message, move it from 10 to 999, and let's commit this. Good to go. We have our new commit on top of our previous commit. I'm going to rebuild this. It seems like it's actually using Alright, build succeeded. I'm not even opening the debug version, but I think it's sharing some files that it's storing on my user profile, which might be messing it up. Alright, there we go. Okay, clearly the old version does not like this. So we will simply use the new version. we have it set to 100. What I need to set it to is, yeah, it's not letting me go above 999, which is fine. Let's try that. Hit OK. Let's test it out, see how bad this crashes. When I hit this, it's probably going to freeze for a little bit. And it's freezing. Kind of see in the background over on the right, each of these yellows is the garbage collector. Willing to bet it's actually, while this is ticking away, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Don't set it to 999. We're going to leave it just in case some people are adamant about doing that sort of thing. So next thing I can do, so I'm actually going to push this up to my personal repository. Alright, usually you just have to type this in once. So we're pushing this new commit out to my personal repository. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to go back to this. I'm going to go up here and go to my GitExtensions fork. As you can see, it's mine. So I'm going to switch branches to my brand new branch here. There we go. So I'm going to set up a pull request by clicking this green button. And as you can see here, it's figuring out what I actually want to merge into. So I'm telling it I'm going to merge into master. They don't have a develop or anything like that, so that seems like the appropriate place. And I'm merging from my repository and my branch into their branch. So let's check out these guidelines real quick. How to contribute code. Let's do project workflow. So here we are, they say to create a lightweight branch on my fork, which is based on the master branch. That's exactly what we did. So I'm using master as the base, as they're suggesting here. Provide screenshot for UI changes. I'm going to skip that for now since it is so simple. The UI didn't really change, just the default value. So let's go ahead and move forward for this. Fixes number, so we need our number 3892. Changes proposed. Change maximum commit message preview from 10 to 9. That's really it. Screenshots, none needed. How did I test? On my particular computer, 999 wasn't working, but it might work for somebody else. Oh, there it goes. Imagine that. So let's give that a quick try, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's somewhat usable. I probably shouldn't go up to 999, but honestly, almost nobody's going to change that. At least not to a number that high. And theoretically it works, it's just slow. So I'm okay with that. I'll let somebody else take a screenshot. Has been tested on Git, I'll say Win 10, and what version of Git are we running? So let's open up our bash window here, Git version 2.7. So just grab that. Alright, and now we're ready to just create the pull request. GitHub automatically links back to that issue. If we go back to the issue and refresh, actually we don't need to refresh, we can see that it's already pointing back to the pull request I made right here. So they now reference each other. So now when a maintainer is ready to merge this in, they'll just go ahead and merge the pull request. That's really all there is to it. So there's your pull request. So that's all there really is to it. I think I've shown some of the usefulness of Git extensions, especially for somebody who isn't super familiar with Git yet. I don't think it hinders you from learning the actual commands, because there's a variety of ways to actually see what's going on. You can literally go through the list of commands it's running as you're doing various things. So if you're ever wondering what it's doing, you just go look at this. This will tell you. So there you have it, a little overview of Git extensions and seeing it in an actual use case with the pull request and all. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed it.